The slave girl in chains. The war was over, or at least that's what they said. Commander Ryder stood in the cold alien hall, his boots echoing on the polished black floor. Around him were tall, strange-looking alien leaders. Their faces were hard, their eyes unblinking, their smiles fake. They called it a celebration, a reward ceremony for the human who helped win the battle. Ryder didn't care much for medals or speeches. He had seen too many people die, too many planets burn. He just wanted to go home. But then, they brought her in. Two armored guards dragged something small and broken into the middle of the room. Chains clanked across the floor. Ryder stepped forward without thinking. His heart thudded when he saw her. She was not a thing. She was a girl, an alien girl. Young, maybe his age or younger. Her skin was a soft silver blue, bruised and covered in cuts. Her arms and legs were thin, shaking from weakness. She wore a torn slave dress, and heavy metal cuffs were locked on her wrists, ankles, and neck. Her long hair was messy and her head stayed low. She did not cry. She did not speak. "Your reward," said the leader of the alien council, a tall creature with 6 glowing eyes. "We give her to you. She is yours now. Do with her as you please." The hall was quiet. Every alien in the room stared at Ryder. He looked at the girl again. Her knees gave out, and she fell forward, but the chain around her neck held her back. She coughed once. Blood hit the floor. "What? What is this?" Ryder said, his voice low. "A gift," said the council leader, "taken from the ashes of the fallen empire. A royal bloodline, now nothing but a slave, broken and loyal. No one wants her anymore. She is yours." Ryder walked forward slowly. His hand touched the cold chain hanging from her collar. She flinched, but didn't move away. Her eyes lifted for the first time. Her eyes were bright violet, and they were filled with silent pain. Ryder's jaw tightened. He turned to face the council. "I don't want her," he said clearly. A few whispers rose. "In the room." "You misunderstand," said the alien leader. "This is not a choice. She is a reward. Refusing her would be disrespect." "Then take your disrespect," Ryder said, "because I don't take slaves." The room froze. The guards stepped closer, their hands on their weapons. Ryder raised his hand toward them, not to fight but to stop them. Then he knelt down in front of the girl. She looked up at him, confused. "I'm not your master," he said softly. "And you're not my property." He took off his glove and reached for her collar. It was locked with alien tech, but Ryder pulled out a small tool from his belt. With a few clicks, the collar unlocked and fell to the ground. The girl gasped, quietly. Her hand rose to her neck as if she couldn't believe the weight was gone. Then Ryder removed the cuffs from her wrists, then her ankles. The chains dropped to the floor one by one. "You're free now," Ryder said. "Stand if you can. You're not a thing." She didn't move. He waited. Slowly, she pushed herself up to her knees. Her legs shook. Her arms trembled. Ryder reached out to help her, but she pulled away gently. She wanted to stand on her own, and she did. Her head stayed low, her eyes wet with emotion. But she stood tall as her broken body allowed. Every alien in the room watched in silence. Some looked angry, others confused. One or two seemed afraid. The council leader narrowed his eyes. "You shame our gift. You protect filth." Ryder didn't flinch. "No. I protect someone who was hurt. Someone who deserves better than chains." "She is from a cursed line," the leader hissed. "Her kind destroyed themselves. She should be forgotten." "Then you forget too easily," Ryder said. "Because this isn't just a girl in chains. This is someone who still has pride, even after everything. And if that scares you, good." The leader waved a hand and the ceremony was ended. Ryder turned and walked away, the girl behind him. Her chains were left on the floor. He didn't tell her to follow, but she did. She followed him all the way back to his ship, her steps quiet, her eyes never leaving his back. And though she had not spoken a word, Ryder felt it in his bones. This was not the end. This was the beginning. Her eyes never left him. The silence in Ryder's ship was strange. He was used to noise, the beeping of controls, the hum of engines, the loud jokes of his crew. But now only the soft sound of footsteps followed him, always behind him, never too far. The alien girl, the one he had unchained, stayed close. She hadn't said a single word since they left the alien council chamber. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't sit unless he did. She didn't eat until he offered her food, and even then she only took one bite at a time, as if still unsure she had permission to live. Ryder watched her from across the room. Her silver-blue skin was still bruised. The cuts on her arms were fresh, but it was her eyes that held him, those bright violet eyes that never blinked when he looked back. They didn't shine with fear, not anymore. They carried something, deeper now, something heavy. She was watching him, studying him, and Ryder could feel it in every corner of the ship. The quiet tension, like a storm, was waiting to explode. On the third night, he heard a noise in the corridor outside his quarters. Soft, careful footsteps. He didn't grab a weapon. Instead, he opened the door slowly. She stood there, holding a blanket around her shoulders. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She looked up at him, then nodded once. "Come in," Ryder said, stepping aside. She didn't sit. She stood in the corner of his room near the window looking out at the stars. For minutes they stayed in silence. Finally, Ryder spoke. "What's your name?" No answer. "Do you remember it?" Still no answer. Ryder sighed and leaned against the wall. "They called you a slave, but you didn't look like one. Not really. You looked like someone who was pretending not to care, someone who still had fire." Her head turned slightly, just enough to show she was listening. "You're not a gift. Not to me. And you're not a servant. If you want to go, I can help you find a place, a safe one." That's when she finally moved. Fast. Too fast. In one motion, she crossed the room and stood in front of him. Her hand reached up, but not in anger. Her fingers brushed against his chest, just over his heart. Her voice was soft, cracked, but clear. "You took off the chains." Ryder blinked. "You didn't have to," she added. "But you did." "Of course I did," he said. "You weren't born to wear them." She stared at him a moment longer, then stepped back. Her voice dropped. Again. "I was." "No," Ryder said firmly. "You were born to be free." She looked down. "They put chains on me when I was 9. I forgot what freedom feels like." He took a breath. "Then remember it here. No one will chain you again." Later that night, Ryder turned off the lights and went to bed. He heard her sit near the door. Not on the bed, not even on the chair, just the floor, as if she didn't believe she belonged anywhere else. He tried to sleep, but the feeling didn't go away, the strange sense that danger was coming. And it did. A whisper of movement. Ryder's eyes snapped open in the dark. A faint red light blinked near the ceiling. Breach warning. Someone was in the ship. He rolled out of bed and grabbed the knife under his pillow. No time for weapons locker. He turned to the door and saw the girl already standing, her body low, ready to fight. Her eyes were wide but focused. Her hands were empty, but her fingers curled like claws. "Stay behind me," he whispered. "No," she said. "You stay behind me." It was the first time she had given a command, and she meant it. The attacker moved fast, a tall alien assassin wrapped in black, armed with a thin blade made of plasma. Ryder charged forward, but the girl was faster. She dodged the first strike, like water. The second strike missed her throat by inches. Then she moved like lightning. With one powerful leap, she knocked the assassin against the wall. Her hands moved with deadly grace, not wild, not angry, but trained. With each strike, she fought like someone who had done this before. Ryder stared, frozen. He had thought she was weak. But this was no weak girl. She was a weapon. When the assassin fell lifeless, Ryder stepped closer, breathing hard. You knew he was coming? She nodded. I watched. I listened. You could have died. I won't die until you're safe, she said. Ryder shook his head. Why? She looked up at him. Because you are the first man who looked at me and didn't see a thing. You saw me. Her voice cracked again, but not from fear, from something else. I was supposed to be silent, she whispered. But now I speak. What's your name? Ryder asked again, softer this time. She hesitated. Kareen, she finally said. My name is Kareen. Ryder reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. Then I'm glad you're here, Kareen. She didn't smile. But her eyes were no longer just filled with pain. Now, they had purpose. Whispers of a forgotten throne days past. Kareen stayed close to Ryder, never more than a few steps behind him. Her wounds slowly healed and color returned to her face. The crew of the human ship gave her space, unsure how to treat her. Some watched with curiosity, others with caution. But Ryder never flinched. He treated her with quiet respect, not like a prisoner, not like a guest, but like someone who belonged. And the strange part was, Kareen began to believe it, every night. She sat near the window and watched the stars. Every morning she followed Ryder as if it were her duty. She ate more now. She spoke sometimes too. Short words, sharp thoughts, hidden truths. Ryder learned she had trained in hand-to-hand combat as a child. Her movements were not wild instincts. They were old skills, passed down by warriors long forgotten. One night, Ryder noticed something on her shoulder while they trained in the ship's empty cargo bay. Under her thin tunic near her collarbone, a faded mark glowed softly in the dim light, a curved symbol made of 3 rings and a sun. He froze. Kareen, he said, stepping closer. What is that? She looked away. Please, Ryder said. I need to know. For a moment her body tensed. Then slowly she pulled the fabric down just enough to show the full mark. It was a tattoo, but not just any tattoo. Ryder had seen it before, in alien history files, in forbidden archives buried deep within war records. It was the royal sigil of the Sayalari, an empire that no longer existed, an empire that had once ruled 6 systems, an empire that had been burned to ash over a decade ago. I was a child when my house fell, Kareen said quietly. They called us traitors, liars, enemies of peace, but my family never betrayed anyone. Ryder sat down beside her. I was 9 when they came, she continued. They stormed the palace. My father died trying to protect me. My mother was taken. I never saw her again. I was hidden in a tunnel for 3 days before the soldiers found me. They beat me, chained me, and sold me. Since then, I've been passed from owner to owner. Most didn't know who I was. A few did. Her eyes dimmed. They made sure I forgot. Ryder said nothing for a while. Then, in a low voice, he asked, Why didn't you tell me? Kareen met his gaze. Because it doesn't matter. Not anymore. It matters to me, Ryder said. You're the last heir of a royal line. I'm a ghost, she said. A broken name, a forgotten claim. I don't belong anywhere. You belong here, he said. With you? She asked. Yes, he said simply, but not everyone agreed. The whispers started on the alien communication networks first. Short messages, strange code, rumors slipping through the dark web of interstellar space. Someone had spotted the old sigil. Someone had seen her fight. Someone had noticed the way she walked. Not as a slave, but as someone trained in courtly grace. She's alive, one message read. The ghost princess lives, said another. Soon, bounty hunters began tracking her scent. Some wanted her dead. Others wanted to sell her back to the factions that once destroyed her family. They feared her name even if she no longer claimed it. They feared her return. Kareen had no army, no throne, no power, But she had something far more dangerous now, a human at her side. A week later, a representative from the Galactic Trade Union requested to board Ryder's ship for a meeting. It was unusual, but Ryder agreed. The alien who arrived was tall, thin, and wore expensive robes. His eyes were cold and calculating. He sat across from Ryder and glanced once at Kareen, who stood silently in the corner. "Commander," the alien said, "I bring you a friendly warning." "Go ahead," Ryder said. "You are harboring a dangerous figure. We understand your compassion, but you must understand. She is not just a runaway. She is a threat to galactic stability." Ryder narrowed his eyes. "She's a girl who was tortured and enslaved." "She is a symbol," the alien replied, "and symbols start wars. Or they end them," Ryder said. The alien smiled slightly. "You humans are always so eager to play hero. Let me be clear. If she continues to travel with you, others will come. She is a flame, and you are feeding it." The alien stood. "The galaxy may not fear her yet, but if she ever calls herself queen again, blood will follow." He left without another word. That night, Kareen approached Ryder while he cleaned his gear. "You should let me go," she said. "They will come. Not for me. For you." Ryder didn't stop. "I know. Then why don't you send me away?" He looked at her. "Because you're not a burden. You're the reason I'm still fighting." She looked down. "I'm not strong." "Then why are they afraid of you?" he asked. She didn't answer. In the quiet of space, two things became clear. The girl once called a slave was a queen in hiding. And Ryder, a simple human, had just made the galaxy's most dangerous choice. He chose to stand beside her, no matter what came next. A queen reborn in fire, the night was silent. Too silent. Ryder had learned to trust the quiet. Space was full of noises, beeps, echoes, voices, energy humming through wires. But when it went completely still, something was wrong. He sat in the ship's control room, reading old data on the Salari royal family. Most of it had been deleted, buried, or rewritten. But what little he found matched Kareen's story. A royal child lost during the Empire's fall, never confirmed dead, never confirmed alive. The symbol on her shoulder, the rare dialect in her speech, the way she fought. She wasn't just a former princess, she was the last true heir, and that made her dangerous. Outside the room, Kareen sat in the medical bay. Her body was healing fast, but her spirit was harder to fix. Every time someone looked at her with fear or pity, she pulled deeper into herself. But Ryder never looked at her like that. He didn't ask her to be strong. He didn't ask her to lead. He just asked her to live. And slowly, something inside her began to shift. But peace didn't last. The poison came in a silver cup. Kareen never drank anything unless Ryder gave it to her. But tonight, she had accepted a gift from a smiling alien technician who claimed it was a new blend of human tea. She took one sip. Just one. Then her hand started shaking. By the time Ryder reached her, she was already on the floor, gasping, her skin turning pale, her veins glowing with dark blue light. "Kareen!" he shouted, catching her head in his hands. Her eyes flicked, open. "They found me," she whispered. "Don't let me die like this." Her body began to convulse. Ryder didn't hesitate. He rushed her to the med unit, but the scanners couldn't recognize the toxin. Alien tech. Royal blood. The poison was meant for someone with her genetics, something ancient, designed to silence royal heirs forever. And there was no cure, unless... Ryder stared at the small vial of forbidden human tech on the shelf. Emergency nanobots designed to bond with any life form in crisis. If he injected them into her, they might work. But they were linked to his own biology. They were meant to react to his blood. Once inside her, she would carry part of him. His heartbeat, his energy, his life. The connection would be permanent. If she died, he could die too. He didn't think twice. Ryder cut his palm. let the blood drip into the injection chamber, then pushed the nanobots into her veins. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, her body glowed, not from sickness but from fire. The poison burned away in seconds. Her eyes shot open. She gasped for air, and the first word she spoke was not a cry or a scream. It was his name. Ryder. He collapsed beside her, weak from blood loss. Her hands reached for him, not as a servant, not as a survivor, as something else. Hours passed. When Ryder woke, he found Karine sitting beside him. She looked different, stronger. Her silver-blue skin shimmered faintly. Her hair, once dull, now held a strange glow. Her eyes, those bright violet eyes, burned with purpose. He tried to sit up. "How do you feel?" "Alive," she said. "The bond, it worked." She nodded. "Your blood saved me, and now, we are linked." Ryder swallowed. "I didn't mean to bind you." "But you did," she said. "And in my people's ways that means one thing." He blinked. "What?" She leaned closer. "We are bonded, not just by life, by spirit, by choice." "Karine, you didn't just save me," she said, her voice shaking. "You chose me, when no one else did, when I had no name, no power, no throne. You looked at me and said I mattered." Her hand rested over his heart. "In the old ways, when a royal shares blood with another and survives death, they are no longer a servant. They are reborn, and their heart belongs to the one who gave them life." Ryder stared at her, unable to speak. Karine smiled softly. "I am no longer a slave." She stood tall. "I am queen again, and you are the reason." News of her survival spread fast. The alien technician who gave her the poisoned drink was found dead, throat crushed. Message burned into his skin. Failed to kill the flame. Spies from 3 galactic factions began circling Ryder's ship, waiting for weakness. They couldn't believe the heir had returned. And worse, she had bonded with a human. But Karine didn't hide anymore. She walked the halls of the ship in armor with her family's crest. She trained harder, spoke louder, laughed sometimes. A sound so rare it made Ryder smile every time. She was not afraid. Not anymore. One night, under the stars, she stood beside Ryder on the observation deck. "You gave me my life back," she said. He shook his head. "No, I just gave you a choice." "Then I choose this," she said. "I choose to rise." She placed a hand on his chest again, just as she did the night of the attack. "And I choose you, Ryder." He looked at her, eyes wide. She nodded once. "Not as a master, not as a savior. As the one who bled for me. As the one who saw me not as a slave, but as a queen." The stars burned brighter that night, and deep in the galaxy the old powers began to tremble. Because the girl they thought was broken had been reborn, and the fire in her heart now burned for something greater than vengeance. It burned for him. They came to take her. They waited until dawn. The attack came fast, silent, and brutal, just as Ryder had feared. They didn't come to talk. They came to take her. The stars above burned calm and distant, but beneath that silence, the storm had begun to move. 3 enemy ships, cloaked in shadow, hovered near the edge of Ryder's territory. They didn't broadcast signals. They didn't answer hails. They only moved closer, like wolves circling prey. Inside Ryder's ship, the crew began to notice the strange static in the systems. Cameras blinked, doors hesitated. Then a blackout, just for 2 seconds. But it was enough. They slipped aboard during that moment. Elite warriors, trained killers from a forgotten faction loyal to the ancient conquerors of Karine's people. Their armor was dark, their faces hidden. Their mission simple: retrieve the heir, kill anyone who stood in the way. Ryder was in the command room when the first alarm screamed. "We've been boarded," said his pilot, spinning toward him. 3 groups, armed, moving fast. They knew the layout. They're heading for the Queen. Those words hit Ryder like a punch. He grabbed his gear and sprinted. Kareen didn't run. When the emergency lights flickered red and the war siren echoed through the halls, she didn't flinch. She stepped into the center of the training bay and reached for the armored chest plate Ryder had made for her. Forged from human alloy, engraved with her royal sigil. She wore it slowly, calmly, like a queen dressing for a final war. When the first invader burst through the door, she was already armed. He never stood a chance. Her blade moved with fire. Her body, once thin and weak, now danced with purpose. Strike, twist, kick, drop, rise. One after another, they came for her. None of them walked away. Ryder reached the training bay just in time to see her standing over 3 bodies. He stopped, breathing hard. "You okay?" Kareen turned, breathing steady. "They came fast." "They're not done yet," Ryder said. "They brought more." She lifted her chin. "Then we end this now." Together they ran. Corridor after corridor lit up in red. The ship shook as enemy plasma rounds struck the hull. Ryder gave orders, shouting across comms to his crew. Lock all external doors, reroute power, protect the engines. But the invaders were smart. They didn't want the ship. They wanted the girl. And they were willing to die for that goal. In the main corridor, 5 warriors blocked the way. Each carried energy blades and wore old armor, the kind used only by royal executioners. They didn't speak. They only raised their weapons. Ryder stepped forward. Kareen pulled him back. "This is my fight," she said. "Not alone," he replied. "I am not alone," she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "You're with me." He nodded once, then they charged together. The fight was like a dance. Ryder's combat style was raw, fast, heavy punches, smart angles, using his strength like a storm. Kareen's was precise, fast footwork, elegant, blocks, sharp strikes to the throat and knees. Together, they moved like they had fought side by side for years. In less than a minute, the corridor was silent again. Bodies down. Kareen stood over the last enemy, her blade shaking in her hand. "Why?" she asked him. The dying soldier looked up, blood spilling from his mouth. "Because you still live." Those were his last words. An hour later, the battle was over. Ryder's ship held together. Barely. Some crew were hurt. A few would need long healing. But they were alive. And Kareen had changed. She stood at the ship's front window, still in armor, looking out at the stars. Her violet eyes no longer looked lost. They looked like a storm ready to rise. Ryder walked up behind her. "They'll come again," he said. "Let them," she whispered. "You're not scared?" "I was," she said. "Not anymore." He looked at her closely. "What happened in there?" She turned to him. "I remembered who I am." "A queen?" he asked. She nodded. "But not the kind who hides behind golden walls. I am the kind who fights for those who can't. The kind who bleeds for what she loves." "And what do you love?" he asked quietly. She looked up at him. "Freedom," she said, "and the man who gave it to me." In the center of the galaxy, the news spread faster than light. The heir had survived an assassination. She now wore armor. She now led in battle. And she stood not behind an army, but beside a human. The galaxy did not know whether to fear her or follow her. But one thing was clear. The slave they gave away was gone, and in her place stood a queen reborn in fire. The coronation of a new future, the invitation was not a request. It was a warning, a message delivered through encrypted channels signed by the Galactic Council itself. It was written in cold, sharp words. "Bring the girl known as Kareen. She will face judgment for her false claim to a dead throne." They called it a hearing. But Ryder knew what it truly was. A trap. They arrived at the neutral station 3 days later. A massive floating city carved into a dead moon, used only for council trials, political games, and quiet executions dressed as diplomacy. The hall was built to intimidate. Tall black walls, no windows, lights that never flickered. Ryder walked beside Kareen as they entered, but he noticed how everyone looked at her. Not like a prisoner, not like a criminal. They looked at her like she was something impossible. A living ghost. The grand chamber was packed with leaders, soldiers, merchants, and spies, all of them waiting for the moment she would be exposed, humiliated, destroyed. Kareen walked with her head high. Her silver blue skin was clear now. Her armor gleamed beneath a royal cloak stitched with the mark of her house, the 3 rings, and the sun. The very symbol the council once burned from history. But now, it walked into their court, alive. A speaker stepped forward. "You are not a queen," he said, voice sharp. "Your line is extinct. Your bloodline is erased. Your presence here is an insult to the memory of peace." Kareen didn't flinch. "If my line is erased, why are you so afraid of it?" Murmurs spread across the chamber. Another council member stood. "You were seen beside a human, a military leader. What is your true goal? To rebuild your fallen empire with human weapons?" "No," she said calmly. "I came to offer peace, but I brought fire only because you kept shutting every door." Ryder watched her from the side. He had never seen her like this. She wasn't just standing, she was rising. One of the elder leaders stood slowly. His skin was gold, his eyes like glass. He pointed at Ryder. "And what role does this human play? Your bodyguard, your weapon, your lover?" Kareen looked at Ryder, then back at the council. "He is the one who found me when I was nothing." He didn't see a slave. He didn't ask for my loyalty. He gave me freedom. And when I was dying, he gave me his own blood so I could live. The room fell silent. She stepped closer to the center of the chamber. He didn't ask for a throne. He never wanted power. But in our ancient ways, a man who gives his life to save a royal heir becomes more than a protector. She turned and faced everyone. He becomes her chosen. Gasps filled the air. Some laughed in disbelief. Others looked horrified, but no one could deny the fire in her voice. Kareen removed her cloak and placed it over the ground, a sign of royal intent. Then she knelt before the council, not in surrender but in strength. "I do not ask for a throne built on fear," she said. "I do not ask for power given by old laws. I ask only for the right to stand, to lead those who still believe, in honor." Then she stood tall. "If that frightens you, then you are not the leaders this galaxy needs." The chamber was frozen, until one figure rose from the shadows. A diplomat from a minor world. A forgotten race. He bowed deeply before Kareen. "We remember your family," he said. "Your father gave us aid during the famine wars. We owe you." Then another voice. "Your mother helped smuggle our orphans off the burning moons." And another. "Your house was noble. It was the council who betrayed them, not you." One by one they began to rise, until a third of the chamber stood in quiet support. The council, red-faced and stunned, tried to stop the momentum, but it was too late. They had spent years trying to bury the flame. Now it burned in front of them, alive, royal, unstoppable. Outside the chamber, under the twin moons of the station, a new ceremony took shape. Not formal, not grand, but powerful. Hundreds gathered. Soldiers, civilians, traders, refugees. They stood on cracked stone as Kareen stepped forward, armor glowing under the pale moonlight. Ryder stood behind her, silent but steady. She turned to face him. "I once wore chains," she said. "Now I wear a crown. Not because I wanted it, but because you believed I could." She placed a hand over his. "You freed me," she whispered. "Now, will you walk beside me?" Ryder didn't answer with words. He stepped beside her hand in hand, and the crowd, once silent, roared with hope. The coronation was not made of gold or royal trumpets. It was made of fire, scars, loyalty, and love. a queen reborn, a human by her side, and a galaxy forced to watch as the story they tried to erase wrote itself again. The price of calling her queen, the galaxy did not sleep that night. From the icy moons of Thrail to the crowded rings of Zalin Prime, messages shot across space like lightning. Everywhere screens flickered with the same image, a silver-blue woman, in royal armor, her hand held tightly by a human commander. Kareen was no longer a ghost. She was queen, and the human who freed her, the man who gave her blood, stood in battle and walked beside her, was now her consort. Some celebrated, others panicked. But in the dark halls of the empire that once destroyed her people, there was only rage. They dare call her queen, hissed Lord Varkson, leader of the Dominion's Shadow Court. And worse, she crowns a human as her mate. This is an act of war. The others agreed. Plans were drawn, fleets were summoned, orders were given. They would not let this story continue. They would erase her again. This time, with fire. Ryder knew it was coming. He stood on the balcony of their small station outpost, watching the stars. Kareen stood beside him, her fingers brushing his. No more hiding, no more running. They'll come soon, Ryder said quietly. Kareen nodded. They already have. He looked at her. Do you regret it? No, she said. They wanted me to die forgotten. Instead, I lived and chose love. She turned to him. If I must die, I'd rather die standing beside you than live on my knees. Ryder reached for her hand. Then we fight. The attack came like thunder. A black fleet dropped from subspace. Massive cruisers with red markings loaded with weapons too old for records and too deadly for peace. The sky above their station burned red. Warnings screamed through every channel. But Kareen didn't run, and Ryder didn't flinch. They had prepared for this moment, not with armies, but with truth. Kareen had spent the last week reaching out to broken worlds, old allies of her family, quiet watchers who still believed. In honor, she didn't beg for help, she simply told them the truth. They erased my people, they tried to erase me, and now they're coming to erase my choice and the human who saved me. Some refused to answer, but others answered with fire. The first wave hit hard. Kareen's station shook as plasma rounds slammed into the shields. Power flickered. Corridors collapsed. Ryder led a defense squad on the lower decks while Kareen held the command room with only 4 guards. They fought like cornered lions. But they were still outnumbered, just as the last line of defense began to fall. A new signal lit up the sky. Dozens of ships dropped from warp. Different flags, different worlds, different voices, but all of them answered the same call. Kareen's call, a rebel cruiser from the outer belt. A merchant dreadnought that once owed her father a life debt. Even a rogue human warship long thought destroyed joined the fight, and at their front, the Blade of Stormreach, an ancient ship once loyal to Kareen's royal house. They flew under no empire now, they flew for her. The sky turned into a battlefield. Red and blue fire crisscrossed the black. Ships collided. Explosions tore through the dark. The Dominion tried to hold the line, but they had not expected loyalty from so many scattered corners. They had not expected hope. Kareen entered the battlefield herself. Against all advice, she boarded a fighter and led a charge toward the lead enemy dreadnought. Ryder, injured but alive, followed in a second fighter, refusing to let her face death alone. Together they struck at the heart. A final run. 2 ships, 1 chance, enemy cannons locked on, missiles fired. They should have died. But the Blade of Stormreach took the hit, shielding them with its last breath, sacrificing itself for its queen. Kareen and Ryder broke through, and they brought down the dreadnought. The battle ended in silence. Burned ships drifted across the stars, and in that silence, the galaxy realized something it had tried to ignore. A human had bled for a royal alien, and the alien had bled for him in return. They were no longer symbols. They were something far more dangerous. They were real. Weeks later, peace talks were forced. Old enemies swallowed their pride. The Dominion, humiliated and broken, denied their actions. And Karine stood before the new council, no longer asking for a seat. She was given one, not as a token, not as a survivor, but as a queen. She stepped out onto the council balcony after the vote, the crowd cheering her name. Ryder stood at her side, bruised and quiet. She turned to him. "You were never meant to rule," she said softly. "Neither were you," he answered. "But here we are." He smiled. "Yeah, here we are." Then she whispered something only he could hear. "They gave you a slave, but you gave me back everything." And in front of the stars, the crowd, and the watching galaxy, she held his hand high, not as a servant, not as a symbol, but as her equal, her chosen, her king.